I'm quite surprised I've gotten this far in the build without having to give my standard lecture on why all model ship manuals show you how to build the superstructure in the wrong way. If we look at step 21, it shows the parts H9, H11, and B25 being glued to this lower level of the superstructure. Then, in step 22, it shows parts K20, K19, and the top of the conning tower being glued to part H1. This is incorrect. Don't build it this way, that is a bad idea. You see, the problem with this is if you glue the bulkheads to the decks, you then have to mask off the bulkheads to paint the deck separately, or mask off the deck to paint the bulkhead separately. The additional effort of having to do that masking, and in some cases you can get yourself into quite enclosed spaces where it's just difficult to paint, can be entirely avoided if you do one simple thing. Don't glue the bulkheads to the deck below, glue the bulkheads to the deck above. That is what I'll be doing in this video. Parts H9, H11, and B25 form mostly uptakes for the funnels and radio operators' rooms, and parts A12, A13, and B24, which enclose the compartments for flag plotting and the signal shelter. All of these components will be glued to part H1. Parts K19, K20, and the top of the conning tower will not be installed on part H1 at this time. This is also going to be a fairly photo-etch intensive video. Wind baffles are going to be instructed that are attached to the front of part H1. These wind baffles are made out of very many small components that will need to be glued in place individually. That's going to be a bit time consuming. Support struts will also be installed underneath the front face of part H1 that attach to the side of the conning tower. And of course, the plastic hatches will be removed and replaced with photo-etch hatches. Looking at the components for the signal shelter and flag plotting, you can see that there is a bit of flashing around the edge, but it's not too bad. At least the details are otherwise well formed and it should be easy to clean up. All of the components on the B sprue and H sprue are well molded. It looks like it's just the A sprue that has some flashing on it. After removing the components from their sprue, I remove the excess plastic at the injection points and the flashing using a file, and then I gouge out the plastic hatches using clippers and file off the remaining plastic using a bar file. After removing the hatches with a file, I sand the area with a 600 grit sanding cloth to remove any scratches that the file left behind. To assemble these components, I start by placing a small drop of Revell Contactor Professional in each of the faces where they're going to be bonded together. Then, off of the model, I attach the three components to each other. After a short amount of time, just enough time for the glue to tack the components together but not for the glue to fully set, I take the components and place them on the model in the location where they'll be installed. This is just to help me align the components with the model to make sure that when the glue is fully set, I will have a very good fit. Once I'm happy with how the parts are sitting on the model, I reinforce the bond with extra thin plastic cement. After all of the glue has been applied, the components are set aside to dry for a few hours so that when I handle them to install them on part H1, they don't move and get out of alignment with the deck below. The installation of the compartments for the radio operators' rooms and uptakes is simple. There are locator ridges on the underside of part H1 to help align the components. For the forward section with the signal shelter and flag plotting room, it's a little bit more complicated because there aren't any locator ridges in that area on the underside of part H1. This means that I need to use the locator ridges on the deck below to correctly align it with the deck above. So I place the components on the deck and then place H1 on top of the signal shelter. While carefully holding all of the components in place, I apply small drops of extra thin plastic cement to a few key areas to bond the signal shelter to the H1 deck. After giving the glue a short amount of time to bond, I carefully remove the components and then reinforce the full length of the bond with more extra thin plastic cement. After the glue has dried such that it is safe enough to handle, I do a test fit to make sure that everything is in proper alignment. Once I am happy with how all the components are sitting together, I once again remove them from the model and fill gaps with plastic putty. The components with all the plastic putty and glue still not fully dry is set aside to fully set before the excess putty is removed. While all of that is going on, I'm going to work on the photo-etch. The majority of the photo-etch that needs to be installed in this video is going to be the wind baffles that go on the front of part H1. These wind baffles look quite complicated to install because they have a lot of curved edges on them, where it can be quite difficult to precisely bend the Photo-etch. Fortunately, this Photo-etch has also been corrugated on the curves exactly like it was in the previous video with that splinter shield, which makes the folding of these curves incredibly easy. Since this first component is quite small and delicate, I thought that the easiest way for me to fold this curve would be to keep it attached to its fret. That way I have something to hold so I can manipulate it more easily. After using tweezers to carefully fold the front of the wind baffle up into its vertical position, I use tweezers to gently massage the wind baffle into its correct curve. Once the vertical front strip is correctly aligned with the curve of the top of the wind baffle, I glue it in place using extra thin super glue that I apply with a wire. Next, a great many support struts need to be installed. Each of these has to be done individually, so this is a bit tedious and time consuming. I also noticed that if you look at the picture of the wind baffle in the instruction manual, they didn't install these individual support struts. I wonder why that is. Anyway, the technique that I use to install support struts like these is to place a very small amount of medium viscosity or thick super glue at the base of the component and then to carefully position it onto this frame for the wind baffle. This is relatively slow drying super glue, so I have just enough time to position the support strut before the glue really grips hard and makes the component immovable without snapping the glue. That being said, there is only a very small amount of super glue, so each of these support struts is very delicate at this point. After tacking all of the support struts in place, I want to reinforce the bond so that they don't fall out so easily. To do this, I apply extra thin super glue with a wire to the base of each of the support struts and let capillary action draw the glue all the way around the component to create a very strong bond. When I was removing these components from the sprue, you might have noticed that there is a very small lip along the front edge of part H1. I think it's an attempt to in plastic mold the wind baffles. I wasn't sure if I needed to remove that plastic to install a Photo-etch wind baffle, so I left it on. After doing a test fit with this section of Photo-etch wind baffle, I can see that it is obstructing the wind baffle, so I need to remove it. To remove it, I'm using a selection of files to get around all the curves and corners to get a nice smooth face. Now that I have some experience with constructing this type of wind baffle with that small central section, I'm going to attempt one of the larger sections that go on the sides. Here I'm going to follow a similar technique, although I am going to completely remove it from its fret because this component is large enough for me to more easily hold and handle. In this case, I think having it attached to the fret is going to be a little bit more difficult than not being attached to the fret because it's just going to get in the way of construction. To fold this wind baffle, I start with the central straight piece that just needs to be folded into a vertical position. Then I grab the ends of the straight pieces that have a curve at one end and pull it to where it needs to end. The corrugations do their work and help the curve align perfectly with the curve of the top of the wind baffle. It really is amazing how well this works. I can't believe it still, it's fantastic. Once I'm happy with the position of the front face of the wind baffle, I glue it in place using extra thin super glue that I apply with a wire. This process is then simply repeated across the length of the wind baffle, and it works surprisingly well. There's the odd corner that needs to be bent into the face, but that's done easily enough with tweezers, and for the longer curves, there's a little bit of adjustment that needs to be done to make sure that it aligns properly with the top of the wind baffle. But a bit surprisingly, all of this is actually really easy to achieve, and I can get the component into a really good looking state. By far the most tedious part of these Photo-etch wind baffles is installing all of these little support struts. They have to be done one at a time, and there are just a lot of them. They are very small, so you might lose some, but it does look as though they've provided a lot of extras. Rather amazingly, somehow I managed to not even lose one of them. That might be important though, because I'm pretty sure there are other wind baffles on this ship, so there might actually not be as many extras as it looks like there are. Anyway, the installation for all of these support struts on these wind baffles is exactly the same as it was for the smaller curved section. Each of them is tacked in place with a small drop of medium viscosity superglue. After attaching enough of these support struts to be concerned that if I continue handling the component I'm going to knock off more of them, I reinforce the bond with extra thin superglue that I apply with a wire, after which I tack in place the next batch of struts. Now that all three wind baffles have been constructed, they are ready to be installed on part H1. Starting with the long baffle that goes on the port side of the component, I hold it in place with my fingers, pushing it quite tightly into the plastic. The shape does align quite well with the plastic, although it does seem to have a slight tendency to push away from the plastic in certain areas. That might be because of slight inconsistencies in the placing of the support struts that I'd installed. Anyway, the fit is good enough such that it does follow the plastic well. While firmly holding the wind baffle in place, I apply extra thin superglue to the top of it at both ends. Once tacked in place, I reinforce the bond across its entire length using more extra thin superglue. The process is then repeated for the central section of the wind baffle, which is considerably easier to install because it's a much simpler shape. It simply slots into position and is glued in place using extra thin superglue. Finally, the starboard wind baffle is installed. The exact same technique is used as I used to install the port wind baffle, and it goes on quite easily. During the construction of these wind baffles, I'd applied a lot of superglue to various parts of it. That means that there is still a lot of superglue on the faces that need to be removed. I hadn't removed the superglue before installation on the plastic because they were very delicate to handle. Now that they are firmly attached to their plastic component, they are a lot stronger, and it's much safer for me to file off that glue and sand the surface smooth. With the superglue removed, the wind baffles have now been successfully installed. Moving on to the good old hatches. This is something that you've seen me do many times now, so they are simply removed from their sprue, folded into position, placed on the model, and glued in place using extra thin superglue. Nothing surprising there, you've seen me do that in something like the last 5 videos. So let's end with something different. Support struts. These are the support struts underneath the front of part H1 that attach to the side of the conning tower. When I removed the plastic wind baffles, I also removed the plastic support struts, and because there were plastic support struts over there, if I look very carefully at this plastic, you can see a slight discoloration where the plastic support struts used to be. I can use that to help position the Photo-etch support struts. Initially, I was just doing this by eye, but it did become a little bit difficult to see while I was maneuvering the Photo-etch into position, so in the end I marked them with small dots of ink. The process for installing these support struts is actually very similar to the process for installing the support struts in the wind baffle. I start by applying a very small drop of medium viscosity superglue to the underside of the support strut and then place the support strut in contact with the plastic. Once I have glued down a number of the support struts, I reinforce the bond using extra thin superglue. After installing the first 2 support struts, I remove H1 from the conning tower just to make sure that the components are still separate and I haven't glued them together. At this point, I still do want to be able to separate these components because they will be painted separately. After confirming that the parts are indeed not stuck together, put them back in contact with each other and proceed with the next set of support struts. The same process is followed for these support struts. They are tacked in place with medium viscosity superglue, then a slight reinforcing with a small amount of extra thin superglue before the plastic components are separated. Since the plastic components are now separated, I can apply more extra thin superglue without having to worry about bonding the plastic parts together. So I apply a lot more extra thin superglue to ensure that the support struts are properly bonded down. The last thing that I need to do is install styrene strips in the inside of these compartments. That is just so that if you look through a porthole, you don't look straight through the structure and out a porthole on the other end. You shouldn't be able to see straight through the ship. This styrene stock piece is glued in place using Revell Contactor Professional. Now that all the plastic and Photo-etch work for this component has been completed, I'm going to spray the entire thing in Surfacer to help reveal any defects. After spraying the surface on the component, there aren't any defects that I need to be concerned about, so I'm going to call this a success. This could have gone very poorly if that wind baffle wasn't designed as well as it was designed. Those corrugations on the inside of those sheets that curve are very helpful. So far, I have been really impressed with this FlyHawk kit. My experience with FlyHawk kits is that they are a bit hit and miss, and this one seems to be a hit. In the next video, I will continue working on the superstructure. I'll build the top of the conning tower and the platform that goes behind it. If you don't want to wait for the scheduled release of videos and want to watch them when they are uploaded, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below. If you would like to support the channel, like and subscribe, and as always, questions are welcome in the comments. Thank you for watching. Cheers.